Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're talking about our new little friend, and that is, of course, Poltchageist. So, first off, let me just briefly say how I feel about this Pokemon. I do like this Pokemon. I think it's okay to me. It is, just one of those Pokemon where you see it and you're like, it's alright, but you're not crazy about it, but you don't dislike it per se. I like it better than Poltchageist and Sinistee, but to be frank with you, I never really cared for Poltchageist or Sinistee, so yeah, there's that. Let me know your thoughts on this Pokemon in the comments below, but now, let's break this thing down. So, if you didn't see, Pokemon released, like, this little, folktale thing where these people were telling the story of Poltchageist, and basically, it's this guy who was a tea master, who was a jerk to everyone, and he ended up passing away, and over time, the little tea caddy he made, kind of came to life, and, supposedly it's this guy, because it's got the same little 3 dots that the guy had in the, little short they did, but now he wanders around, and he fixes things with matcha, which is a process in Japan, like, that's, like, a real thing that they do, but I do not remember what it's called, so, yeah, not a fluent Japanese person, nor a Japanese culture aficionado, if you will. But this little guy goes around trying to fix things. It also, sucks out your soul. So that's cool. And apparently, in the land of Kitakami, matcha is banned. That seems to be what this guy said. So that's kind of interesting, and it's banned because of this Pokemon. It attracts this Pokemon, and then it'll suck out your soul. So that's just a really neat detail on some lore in Kitakami. But yeah, I love this lore behind it. Honestly, any love I have for this Pokemon probably is not because of the design, but because of the story behind it. But then there's the weird fact about its name. Its name is Poltchageist, and it is being compared to Sinistee. This is clearly one of those convergence or regional fakes or lookalikes, whatever you want to call them, on the same route as Wiglet or Toedscool, right? That's what this Pokemon is. But the interesting thing is they keep comparing it to Sinistee. They show pictures of it with Sinistee, or rather a shot in the trailer of it with Sinistee. On the official website, it has it with Sinistee. Yet, it shows this Pokemon, its name is Poltchageist. And that's not exclusive to the English language either. If you look at the other languages, this Pokemon's name is a reference to Poltchageist's name in those languages, not Sinistee. So I think it's really interesting that this is the convergent of Sinistee, but as the name of Poltchageist, or the name that's similar to Poltchageist. Whereas, before, like, Wiglet was the convergent or regional fake or whatever to Diglett, and it had the name of Diglett. It was just Diglett with a W instead of a D, right? Same with Toedscool. It didn't switch them around, but this one did, and so it makes me wonder about the evolution for this Pokemon, because I do think it'll evolve further since it's compared to Sinistee. There has to be something that's compared to Poltchageist, right? Maybe this Pokemon evolves actually in a different way where it is not compared to Poltchageist at all. Maybe this Pokemon, like, just evolves differently in a similar way to how, we've had regional forms, which seems to be what this new concept of Pokemon is taking the place of. But we used to have these regional forms that, like Persian, for example. We have an Alolan Persian, but we also have no Galarian Persian. Instead, we have a Berserker there. Meowth evolves differently. So perhaps this convergent of Sinistee evolves differently than how Sinistee does. It just happens to kind of look similar to Sinistee in this stage of it. Or maybe it just will still be a convergent to Poltchageist when it evolves, and they just switch the names around, either just for fun, or maybe even because whatever it evolves into, they just were able to think of a better name that better fits Sinistee, at least in the Japanese language, and so the other languages adapted it and went for mimicking Sinistee's name instead of Poltchageist's name in the final form, and thus the baby form got Poltchageist's name. It's very weird, though. It's really confusing, and to be honest, I don't like that a lot. But the second biggest complaint we've gotten about this Pokemon is that this Pokemon really shouldn't be a convergent. It should be a regional form, right? This is a regional Poltchageist. I mean, it literally went from a type of tea to, well, a type of tea. So what's the deal with that? And that actually, while I am with that point, on a real world game development standpoint, you know, I do understand that this is probably because, like I said, Pokemon is going to be wanting these, I think, lookalikes to basically replace regional forms going forward. And there's a lot of reasons that is. For one, it seems evident of that just because we only got 2 regional forms in Paldea, Paldean Tauros and Paldean Wooper. And then we got the same amount of these lookalike Pokemon, right? We got Wiglet and Toadstool, and now we've gotten this Poltchageist. But then also, if you look at the DLC, it kind of gets confusing there, right? Because Kitakami's not in Paldea. So if they were to do a Poltchageist variant, it wouldn't be Paldea and Poltchageist, because we've already seen Poltchageist in Paldea. It would have to be Kitakami and Poltchageist, and then that just gets a little confusing because you have 2 regional variants made in the same game, and you know, I can see how that would be a little much for them. And they, you know, at the end of the day, Pokemon is a game that is supposed to be meant for everyone, so I could also see how that could be confusing to, you know, kids that are playing this game, you know, like, so if I breed Poltergeist in Paldea, it hatches into a Sinistea, but if I breed it here, it hatches into a Kitakami in Sinistea, you know, it is a little wonky, and that kind of gets to the next big point, which is that convergence, you know, are better in the long run, right? It's better to say, like, you can have Poltergeist or Wiglet or Toadstool exist in other regions, but if you have Alolan Sandshrew exist in other regions, a Pokemon that is supposed to be specific to Alola, hence Alolan Sandshrew, it adapted to the Alolan climate, to where it was living in the Alola region. Well, you kind of have to explain yourself. You know, how did the Sandshrew in this region adapt to be exactly the same as the Sandshrew in that region? You would have to do some explaining. Like, even Blueberry Academy is going to have Alolan forms in the wild, but that's all explained by, well, the environments are artificial. So these Pokemon don't naturally live here. They were all brought in. So it makes sense they brought a bunch of Alolan Pokemon into environments that were suitable for them, and then over time they were bred. You know, kind of like a zoo, except we can actually go into this zoo and catch things, right? But from an in-game explanation of why Poltergeist is convergent, it's really just as simple as these are 2 different types of spirits. You know, in the Pokemon world, you're going to have different types of living things, right? Like, I've seen a lot of people go, oh, well, that's an Objectmon. It can't be convergent because it's an Objectmon. And, like, yes, in the real world, a teapot and a tea caddy cannot be convergent, but this isn't the real world. This is the Pokemon world, where the object Pokemon, like Voltorb or Geodude, even as a rock, you know, they're not rocks, and they're not Pokeballs. They are living things that happen to look like those objects, right? And so no different here. In fact, it actually is different here, because it's not even the tea caddy that's alive, right? The tea caddy is being possessed by something that is alive. So we're looking at 2 different ghost species. One made its home in a teacup or a teapot, and one made its home in a tea caddy. And yeah, the similarities of the objects makes them convergent that way. They literally adapted, these 2 different ghost Pokemon literally adapted to the same kind of lifestyle as each other, and so they have similar features, right? I mean, that's what convergence is, that they're 2 different Pokemon. So I think people see the similarities and they go, oh, well, that has to be a Poltergeist that's just adapted to this. And no, it's not. It's like saying a Ghastly that's possessed something and a Mischievous that's possessed something are regional forms. No, Ghastly and Mischievous are 2 entirely different Pokemon. So that's what's happening here. I admit, though, from an outside, from a real world, knowing this as a game standpoint, it is a little bit like, you know, that could have been a Kitakami and Poltchageist, but okay, you know, I really think they are going to be doing away with regional variants in favor of these new convergence, regional fakes, lookalikes, whatever you call them. I really don't care what you call them, because I know what you're talking about when you do, and I think that the people who are very angry at people who call them certain names should really calm down, because it's fine. You know what they're talking about. Just chill till we get official word on what the names are. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, that's perhaps a rant for another time. But be sure to let me know what you think of this mon, as well as if you think it should have just been a regional form, or if it, you know, if you like that it's a convergent. What do you think about convergence replacing regional forms going forward, if that is indeed what they do? Let me know all that in the comments below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss all our future videos. And until next time, I will see all of you later.